Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special episode, probably a wrap up of what seems to be one of the best ever Border Gavaskar trophies ever played in on Australian soil. So, welcome everyone. This is Chris and Roshan. Cricket's the winner, he says, and myself, Kandal, for you to wrap up the series and also to talk about what happened through the five test series that we just witnessed. A lot of drama, of course, a happy day, one of the happiest for us Australian fans, but a grim one for Roshan, who's the man in the middle right now. First thoughts, gentlemen. Chris, you want to go first and do a high five in terms of your thoughts, and then we'll go to Roshan and hear about what's going on in his mind. And yep,
I'm excited about this for so many reasons. But most importantly, the fact that we have Roshan boxed in the middle of two Australia fans. Hopefully, this will be some good payback for what him and Rehan did to me in the previous stream, where I couldn't even celebrate an Aussie victory properly. So, hopefully, I can give it back to him for both the games put together. Let me quickly summarize the game. First of all, brilliant game. As much as I hate to admit this, I have to agree with Roshan that cricket was definitely one of the winners. Um, India uh, batting first, 185. Par score was supposed to be 300 or something. So it looked like they ended up way short. But of course, when you have a Bumrah in your team, uh, you can always claw back into the game. That's exactly what India did in the first innings of Australia. Actually, skittling out the Aussies for 180. Then India going to the second innings, again, just 175 or something. Honestly, not a great performance, especially day three today, where they had like 4 or 5 wickets and they lost it in like 20 minutes. From the start of play, and Australia coming back, Sam Constas looked like he wanted to end the chase in the power play, but of course, once again, you had the Indian bowlers trying to get back into the game. Ultimately, the age-old nemesis, a name who's all too familiar in the history books or the books of hell for India fans, I should say, in the name of Travis Head. He came in and made sure that there were no further slip-ups, and ultimately Australia won with 6 wickets in hand.
yeah, calls himself head, but he's the one who's in the head of all Indians, probably. go,
Calls
go for it.
himself head, but if you ask any Indian fans, they would say he's too anal.
Go for it, Roshan.
Oh my God. I don't know which is worse, the jokes or the gloating, actually. But I think there's close competition. But look, I mean, I really mean it. I think it was amazing to see the crowds for a test match. Right? It was amazing to see decisive results in at least four of the five test matches that we played. Right? And it was great to see some competition. I mean, on paper, it might look like, Indians lost, pretty comprehensively, but I feel like we lost sessions of play, right? We lost, we lost the matches in spurts, if I can say that, right? Yes, the Aussie bowling post Boland coming into the mix, right? I mean, it definitely improved. Chris is flashing a wide grin because I did call Boland like a line and length bowler, as if that's a bad thing. But look, when the pitch is doing something, I think that's all you need, right? That's all you need. Someone who asks questions from the first ball onwards, and that's why he's been like so damn successful, right? I mean, you bowl the ball in the right places and let the pitch do the rest of the work for you, basically. It'll be interesting to see how he plays on some of these dust bowls in India and so on, right? So let's see. Um, but otherwise, I mean, kudos to the Aussies. I think they've played tremendously well. Led from the front by Cummins. I think again, fantastic captaincy. Uh, really amazing captaincy. But for like a brief time when Pant was going hammer and tongs, um, I felt like they were bowling to a strategy, which was kind of missing with India, right? I mean, which is Just like, okay, hand the ball to Bumrah, hope that he will do something, kind of a thing, right? The third slip was missing for some odd reason. Some of the times, like like unexplainable. Like I don't know why,
Yeah, I
and
think
then
the
pushing
explanation you're
the
looking for is chopping and changing three captains in the course of a test match, Roshan. That's what happens, and the
look.
slip
I
cord and
I also think there's a good thing so that this results in some kind of a transition, like a meaningful transition for Indian cricket, at least on in the test match front, right? Because unless we had this kind of a drubbing, right, there won't be questions asked, right? I mean, let's suppose Kohli got like a 50 and we somehow made it through, right? Then he gets another series and another series after that, right? Versus right now when he's averaging perhaps like 14 or 15 over the last 10 innings that he's played, and there are serious questions being asked, right? And lesser said the better about Rohit Sharma as well. So I think overall, as much as this is it sucks to lose, obviously, but I think that overall this is a great thing for Indian cricket. I mean, we can get on with our transition now and look ahead rather than be in this weird mix of like stepping into the future but with one leg in the past and so on.
yeah, absolutely. You have to look for silver linings wherever you can find them, and clearly, shipping out some of your done for cricketers looks like the only good thing to come out of this series. But Gandalf, moving away from the eulogy, celebrations for us uh, after the Perth Test match,
Definitely.
it did not look like a result that we would end up seeing, honestly.
I always believed it, even before the series started when we did a show. Our friend, Dibbly Dobbler Rehan, he called a 3-1 to India. And
Yeah,
I did the exact
absolutely.
opposite.
Congrats on
I
getting
called
it
a,
right, Rehan. The only one
yeah,
who got the scoreline prediction right.
no,
Unfortunately, he missed it.
I got it right too. I called a 3-1 in favor of Australia.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so you can go back to that episode in one of our videos. So probably it will be a
Nice.
nice recap of where we started for our viewers. So I think
The veteran
it.
putting the prodigy in his place, huh? We have had a few of that in the series.
Yeah, no, I absolutely did not see this coming. I thought it might actually be one of the, one more time where we actually lose the BGT at home, humiliation, a few retirements, like, probably Usman Khwaja and company. But I think there are questions, of course. There are some concerns around the batting order, some concerns around the batting form. Bowlers, of course, I wouldn't actually take anything away from the quartet and Scott Boland, who actually probably I would call him as the Stuart McGill of this generation. Uh, where given the opportunity, he's probably someone who just nails it. And Stuart McGill did the exact same thing when Shane Warne was playing. He never got an opportunity, except for the times when there was an SCG test where they would play two spinners, Shane Warne and Stuart McGill, or probably if Shane Warne was injured. So Scott Boland is probably one of those. He's not a one-trick pony. He is definitely got his strategy while bowling to Indians,
Yeah,
and
well, what he
definitely,
does, apparently any bowling machine could get on the field and do according to some cricket experts. So let's keep our praises to Scott Boland on a minimum, to a minimum in the stream, because I don't want people rage quitting
I
just
think
when we
I
are
think
getting
it's high
started.
time they. I think it's high time they built him a statue.
Yeah,
It's definitely time.
yeah. He's taking claims to the other G as well, other than his MCG. Um, some of the India fans in our group were very, very happy that he didn't have a quintessential bowling performance at the SCG. He surely made up for it at the MCG. Um,
Some of these folks, I
yes,
think they've
yes.
just grown up idolizing Megra, So I see that with Webster also, right? I think very similar, trying to skid the ball, bowling very just fourth or fifth stump at best, bowling that just short of a length kind of a ball and getting the batsman to make a mistake, right? Yeah, I mean, it's good to see fast bowling, man. I mean, it's good to see that. Yeah, even though we had like Prasidh Krishna, Akashdeep, and Nitish Reddy as the third and fourth pace options for us. But as much as the finger is going to be pointed at the batsman, I think Indian bowling as well has a lot to on. I don't feel like Siraj gave you the kind of confidence like like a Shami would have, right? I mean, Siraj has as many wickets as perhaps Cummins in the series, which is like saying a lot. I think he's the second or third highest wicket taker in the series. But still, I felt like he was great in spurts. Obviously, his best performance was first innings of the last match, but you didn't have someone who would keep the pressure on, because that's the
Yeah.
basic minimum thing that you need with someone like a Bumrah, right? I mean, because Bumrah is going to get you wickets, but I mean, if the batsman just has to play out five deliveries or six deliveries and get to the other end, right, and score all the runs there, you're going to get screwed. You know, you're going to get absolutely screwed unless it's limited overs, and you have like a Hardik Pandya coming and bowling those dollies that my grandma could have hit, right? But you only have a certain number of balls to play, right? I mean, in a test match, that
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. You can, and these guys score pretty briskly, right? Even that Qantas guy also. So, especially that guy, in fact. So,
Constas. You would think
you
after
just
what he did it to you
no,
in
no,
the two innings,
you
Qantas,
you
just
wouldn't.
Qantas.
mispronounced you just mispronounced him intentionally, didn't you? Yeah. Anyway, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
you're
I'm
very
going
right
with
there,
Jaiswal's
Roshan.
pronunciation.
I think you're very right with Siraj. The sad part is that he actually gives it his all. He's
Yeah.
someone who actually gives it his all, whether he's batting, fielding, or with his bowling. But you're right that he might probably end up getting like 3 wickets or 4 wickets in every innings, or sometimes on an average. But uh, he gives away a lot of runs and lets the pressure off, and batters tend to score milk for runs, and make him tired and other bowlers tired in the process. So those wickets that he actually
Not to
gets in the
mention all
final,
the wasted reviews that he takes with him.
yeah, like he's so enthusiastic. He's probably like Virat Kohli and Manas Labuschagne, all of them put together in terms of enthusiasm.
See, I'll be honest and say that Nitish Reddy, Harshit Rana, Akashdeep, they're not test match class bowlers at this point of time, right? And
Yeah,
come on, I think everyone feels that, but nobody wants to be like straightforward and say it. They're not test bowlers at this point of time, right? Nitish Reddy, perhaps his batting saved him a spot, but based on his bowling, I don't think he would get picked at all, right? And the rest of them as well, right? I mean, none of them look like they're really potent as such. I mean, they look like they could produce good balls every now and then, but yeah, I mean,
All right,
you
that
know,
begs the question,
and that's a
right?
real problem
Going with
actually.
two spin options on a track like SCG, when somebody like McGrath comes out and says, "Hey, I have not seen this much grass at the SCG in all my playing career," and then your opposition picks two spinners, especially when your only frontline seamer is Bumrah, that begs the question as
See,
to
this is
how much of a
yeah, this is
hold
the kind of stuff.
Gambhir. Hmm.
No, no, it's not a Gambhir thing. It's just a mindset thing, right? This is what you will do when you're defending, basically, right? You will not take a chance. You will not read things for what they are, right? You will go by history, right? I mean, you will say, okay, Sydney, yeah, I need to pick spinners. I'm not going to go wrong, right?
yeah.
Imagine I didn't pick those spinners and it started turning. I look stupid. And I already am, 2-1 in the series, right? So would I take the chance? So there is less incentive to get it right than, not get it wrong. So, which is why, I mean, I think they kind of went by historical bias rather than like reading the conditions for what they are.
Gandalf, we have to talk about this guy. Uh, Even when we are chatting in the group, I remarked how a lot of people think the difference between Australia winning this and India winning this. People think it is Bumrah, but it is actually Mitchell Marsh. And I think the situation proved me right more than anything. The
Yeah.
way Australia were right after Kawaja got out, if with all due respect to Mitchell Marsh, if he had to walk in at that time, we would have been looking at a typical Aussie collapse that we have been used to at this point of time. But
Yeah.
instead, we had a very reassuring Webster come in, 31 years of age. And he's not the first or the last who's victim of some of this favoritism that's going around within the Australian selection. Scott
Yep.
Boland did not get into the team until after he was 30 or something. And Webster
Correct.
is 31. But better late than never. And boy, what a debut has he had. Like a lot of limelight went to Sam Constas because that's
I'm
flashy, but the
yeah.
way he reassured in both the innings, I think like he won the match for us simply because in his absence, Mitchell Marsh wouldn't have been able to do what he did.
No, absolutely. I think you summarized and nailed it. Bo Webster for me is probably the one thing that got me pumped about what's in store for Australia for the next few years. Like he, along with Cameron Green, can be deadly in terms of Australian batting middle order. I mean, both can bowl. I don't know if it's going to be one of them who will always be in the playing 11. I don't want that to be the case. I want both of them to be in the slip cordon so that there is no need for the slip cordon. And, Bo Webster, he has got the technique. I mean, sometimes I see like Australia all of a sudden, the last couple of years have started producing a lot of good, tall, fast bowling all rounders. You also have someone like an Aaron Hardy waiting in the wings. Of course, he's played a couple of 2020 matches, and he's a regular in the 2020 side, I guess, these days. But one day internationals, but he is also a potential one. So I think very excited for Bo Webster. He saved it, and Mitch Marsh, I feel like he's a good bloke, like they say in Australia, but and he has taken it very sportingly. In fact,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. One of the highlights in today's match was on the commentary box when I believe it was Mark Waugh when he went uh, for Australia to drop Mitchell Marsh. He's one of the, and then he struggled briefly for the right adjective. He really couldn't come up with anything such as reliable or important cornerstones of this middle order. And then he went, he's one of the favorites of this Australian team. And
no,
it must
definitely.
have
I think, yeah, he. I mean, if you had followed the Prime Video series on the test, I think he's like a court jester in the Australian dressing room. He makes jokes on everyone. He pulls pranks. He's a nice guy. But probably he also makes Australia win even without playing. That tells a lot about his all-round talent, right? So he probably
as
just
Rehan would say, one of the best no-rounders in the world.
exactly. And then you have someone like Rohit Sharma who pulled out and for no reason. So, but
Yeah, Rohit Sharma must have had quite the laugh watching the scene unfold on
no, but
debut.
I
Oh
think
my God.
we need to talk. Of course, I mean, great, excitement in terms of looking at Sam Constas and Nathan McSweeney opening in the future. Khwaja is looking into the twilight right now, staring into it. So probably, good things for Australia coming up in the next few years. It was a transition side a few years back, but now, they've almost achieved, for me, the final frontier. Like Steve Waugh in 2001 said, would be probably winning the BGT in India. So I'm still waiting for it. I will probably wait for it until that feather is actually on the cap. I would probably, still hold my breath and then wait for it. But uh, let's
Well, how good
probably,
are you underwater?
sorry.
How good are you underwater? Because you're going to have to hold that for a long time, considering Nathan Lyon is also in the twilight of his career. And going to India with Todd Murphy, with all due respect to the kid, as your frontline spinner is not exactly very
Yeah, but
inspirational.
it's also a transition India side, right? So I know India is strong regardless of India's bench strength is pretty strong. So India can never give an excuse that Ashwin is retired, Virat Kohli is gone, Rohit is gone. India always has talent. Let's face it. Like whether it is in any part of the batting order, there are for every spot in the batting order, there are probably 10 people waiting there.
Yeah.
You call a Sanju Samson, you call a Ishan Kishan. I mean, they may be or may not be in form at the moment, but there are always 10 people waiting for every position there. So yeah, I mean, we'll have a competitive series in future in India if that happens. But
Hopefully,
they,
hopefully. All right, I
But
want to switch gears because this is also the
just one
yeah.
point before we move on to the
Mm.
moments, right? See, we have bench strength, but a lot of that bench strength is coming from IPL, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
what I've realized, at least over the course of this series, is that the skills are not translatable. You know, you don't need a 170 strike rate in a test match, right? You don't even need 100 if you ask me, right? Even though it's
Well, that was
2025.
the difference between
So
170 and getting all out for 90 in your second innings. But sure.
no, so
No, but I
so
think
I don't know if the
it's
bench
a, it's
strength
a,
matters a great deal. You know,
yeah.
and I do hope for our sake, someone like a Webster is picked and he bowls on those dust balls and gets carted around. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that's a very valid point, Roshan, there, because India has the bench strength. It's probably the focus on IPL and using that for selection. That's the problem. India has a good Ranji bench
yeah,
strength as well. The problem is that
correct.
we get very hyped up and pumped up around talent which goes to Australia, picked up from IPL performances. Someone like Shardul Thakur, and because I'll tell you, it is a guarantee that most people who are picked up from IPL might actually click in Australia. Australia is one of those easy places to debut. I mean, the popular notion is that it's a very tough place, hostile, this and that. But if you're a new kid these days, at least in the last 5 6 years, debutants have actually done well in Australia because the ball actually is actually something which comes on nice to the bat. You can actually start scoring runs if you are going to hit. So that's why the IPL kids can actually do well in Australia as compared to technically sound patient cricketers from the Ranji territory, right? So maybe they will probably be more intimidated by the Australian uneven bounce and things like that than someone who bats cross batted.
I'm with Roshan on this one. I get that IPL gives you the exposure to be fearless when you're facing a Mitchell Stark or a Pat Cummins because you have already hit them all over the park when you're playing the IPL. But the most important skill to win test matches temperament that does not come from IPL. It comes from toiling hard for 4 5 days in your Ranji trophies and in your Sheffield matches, and that's what ended up
Fully
being
agree.
the difference in the last test match. Uh,
Absolutely.
Webster being case in point. All right, gentlemen, I want to jump on to a segment that I'm really looking forward to. We have had 5 test matches and we have actually come on the stream and spoken about each of them, sometimes before the game, sometimes after the game. Not to mention our always buzzing WhatsApp group where we keep sharing our highlights from the day. I want to go around and ask what is your one pick for your favorite moment from the series. Let's start with Roshan Kariappa because it should not be a long thought process.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my favorite moments and then probably like leave because you guys will go on for quite a while. I mean, you have a good pick, to talk about anyway. Look, for me, I mean, I think two, three things stand out. Of course, Bumrah's bowling, Nitish Reddy getting his 100, and in those circumstances as well. But I think the redemption of Rishabh Pant in the second innings of the Test match, even though we lost, was something to behold. I feel like sports is a great metaphor for life because we put things under constraints and we see how people react, right? That's essentially what it is. You make up a bunch of rules and you have a bunch of goals and objectives, and you see how people react in this very like a microcosm of what could happen in life, perhaps, right? And to me, Pant in the first innings versus Pant in the second innings, I mean, it was true redemption. It was a lesson for all of us that we should just let Pant be Pant. You know, in fact, I tweeted right after that first innings. After the infamous stupid, 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 that if Pant has to be known for more than some exciting shot making, then he has to understand the situation of the game. He has to do what's right for the team and so on. But I do feel like the team is a composite mix of players, right? And what he showed in the second innings is that you have to balance the team around him, right? Don't expect him to be that balance, right? Um,
Yeah.
the guy should just do what he does best. In a on a pitch where people were struggling to put bat and ball, right? This guy is doing 200 strike rate. He's carted every bowler, right? Not just a Webster or anyone, right? I mean, he even belted Boland and Cummins and Stark and all of them, in fact, right? I don't know what was it, four or five sixes he hit, right? A good number of boundaries as well. I mean, that's remarkable. I think you shouldn't dare touch that, right? I mean, you should let that be, and take the pros and the cons of it, right? I mean, the days it comes off, I mean, hey, he got 60 runs in a total of 155 or 160, I don't know what it was, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, that's pretty remarkable. That's pretty remarkable because he is playing at a different level, and that's been the most exciting thing for me to watch in the series, right? Because he just made it look easy. He just made it look
Yeah.
damn easy.
Yeah, you only have 4 or 5 players in the world who can do what Rishabh Pant does, right? And probably three of the other players are from the English basketball setup, and hopefully the fifth person in that list
See,
is.
I feel Ben Stokes is overrated, right? I think the closest
Oh,
person to what
I think that's
Pant is
something all
doing
of us can
is,
align on, Roshan.
yeah, the closest to what Pant does is perhaps peak ABD, right? Peak ABD
Yeah.
I mean, is comparable, but otherwise, no one. I mean, I don't think I've ever watched something like this in, like, I don't know, as long as I've watched cricket, right? Because, see, to pick up the ball the way he does, right? And some of these things, I mean, he's almost hitting it square on a length ball. Like, how the hell do you do that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
I
like
think I think ABD
the speed at
Roshan
which
did
he
it.
is able to react, right, is phenomenal. And ABD is the only other equivalent I can think of.
Yeah, no, ABD did that pretty consistently, and that's why ABD is ABD. But I
Yeah,
would also say, I mean, these are X Factor players, but ABD was probably someone who was beyond X Factor. He was probably the factor. In fact, to me, ABD is probably one of the all-time greats of the game. And I
absolutely.
feel that
Change the game.
someone like
Absolutely
Glenn
change the game.
Maxwell, for example,
Hmm.
for example, in the limited overside, he would have been dropped like after a few matches, but he has stayed in the Australian team for so many years purely for that reason, because he plays his
Yeah,
role and he's been
I
kept in the
agree.
team for the role. Because if you
I
have to
agree.
drop a Rishabh Pant, there are no questions. Two more innings, he fails, call him stupid, 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 and give him the pink slip. It's done. But that's not the role that he's supposed to play. He played his role perfectly. He could have gotten out on any of the shots. Top edge one, and then again you would call him stupid and then let him go. But then
See,
it
I
clicked.
do feel, yeah, it clicked, but I do feel he can improve his shot selection. Okay.
Yeah,
So that is definitely something that he can improve, right? I mean, uh, so I guess you leave Pant to do what he does best. Jared
Yeah,
Kimber has a nice video on this. I mean, you guys should
yeah.
definitely check it out. Yeah.
yeah. Um, I think he has already proved in the series that he's willing to dig in more than what he did in some of the previous matches, and he just needs to be little more consistent. And just like Roshan put it best, let him do what he does best.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you can't like expect somebody who's routinely asked to bail you out to
Yeah,
also be the best version
exactly.
of
See,
themselves.
that's the other thing, right? I mean, I would love to experiment with Pant at maybe three or something, right? Because give him an option to play when you're not four or five or six wickets down, right? And let him do that, you know. Uh, so just some of those things, you need to kind of work it out because again, the guy comes in with five wickets and 5 wickets down. You expect him to like be a batting mainstay, like be the anchor, and plus like he has to play his natural game. I mean, it's tough. It's really, really tough. Yeah.
I think I would probably compare that with the freedom that Travis Head has and the cushion that he has, both from people below him, like Alex Carey and the lower order, and then people who come to bat above him as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
bar Mitch Marsh, of course.
All right, Dolphy, on to you. What is your favorite moment? I know it's going
My
to be a hard pick.
I don't know. I think this to me probably. seemed like an 8-day test match or a 9-day test match, whatever that was. The MCG was full of drama. That was one of the best test matches I watched in recent times. And then you have the SCG test, again full of drama, 3 days, full of fun. It seemed like, this series itself was made of so many great moments. Uh, Loved Bumrah and what he did to the Australian batting
What
lineup in the
the
first.
hell? You have like 100 Australian moments from which you can
Uh,
choose from, and you go for Bumrah. Really? I mean,
no,
all
because
respect to the
because
guy.
because it just reminded me that it actually struck fear in me, like it's almost like Mitchell Johnson just running through the English lineup in 2013-14, and it seemed a little like that. But for me, the major moment was actually getting Shubman Gill out, where Steve Smith and Manas Labuschagne were
Which innings?
chatting.
You have to be a little more specific there. Oh, okay. The banter.
Yeah, the banter between Steve Smith, Manas Labuschagne, Shubman Gill, and then Nathan Lyon just getting him out the very next ball. That was a moment to watch. It's funny, and the next one was actually all the moments that Kohli actually had in this game and the previous one. I'm just amused by Kohli's audacity. Big Kohli fan, by the way. But mate, you're not scoring runs. I
Is
mean,
that your
you.
Justin Langer impression, Gandalf?
Yeah, I mean, like,
Nailed it.
what is he even trying to do? I mean, I can understand if he did this in the first test match or the second test match, because
Yeah.
you do not want to give it away to the opposition, saying that okay, you are broken hearted, you are now totally desolate, and you are just gone down the drain, and you're
And
still trying
Kohli
to
is
pump
like
yourself.
the
Yeah,
class
but
monitor who was picked because the other two monitors are on leave, and he wants to experiment
yeah, like,
everything
this
there
is
in
the
the
final
regular
test match. You failed in the final innings of it. You have nothing more to gain or lose or anything, and you're just behaving now silly, like absolutely stupid. That was
No, absolutely
like
stupid.
do,
Absolutely
yeah, you
stupid.
do it. I mean, there was no need to even rile up the crowd or anything else, because you just looked stupid. It was not
Yeah.
that I didn't
See,
like what Kohli did, but I didn't want Kohli to do such things. It is almost, even as a Kohli fan myself, he
see,
looked dumb doing
I-
that.
absolutely, but you totally see where he's coming from, right? So he
Yeah,
saw Siraj running down, and they have this RCB brotherhood, and of course from the previous Border Gavaskar Trophy, and he probably sensed India had an opening right after Kawaja got out, and
yeah,
when Australia is down, that's usually when they have collapsed right after
yeah,
Manas and Smith got out. But he completely missed the fact that Webster is in now and not Mitchell Marsh, and
yeah.
they
No, I
made
think
it
no
look
one
No,
would
no,
have
that
foreseen
whole
Bo Webster coming.
sandpaper. Yeah, sorry, that whole sandpaper thing was ridiculous. Like it was
Yeah, that
absolutely
was
ridiculous. It
ridiculous.
just looked like
Yeah, yeah,
it looked comical on screen, right? I mean, I won't expect that from someone who scored 100. I mean, with this guy especially, I mean, the manner in which he's been getting out, like he's a meme right now. You know, I would
yeah,
expect more
yeah,
humility from someone like that. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Some of these guys, like Shubman, for example, right? I mean, like yeah, these guys they need someone in the team setup to keep their egos in check, man. Like the way he got out, I mean that's not at all like showing any, forget about resolve and things like that. That's not even showing one bit of maturity, right? I mean, look, to find a place in the 11 is like it's probably 100 200 million people's dream, right? You ask any kid
yeah,
who grew up watching Tendulkar, I mean, they would have all said, I want to grow up and become a cricketer. You get this opportunity and then you're dicking around, right? Which is just really sad. And some of these guys, I think Kohli should be relegated to ODIs now. That's it. He's too slow for
yeah,
T20. He is all over the place in tests, right? So ODI is a dying format anyway. I think he can probably play a few games there and retire. I think they'll probably let him get his 10,000 runs and then like relegate him to ODIs. uh, Shubman as well. I don't think he has I don't think he has a temperament to play Test cricket. Really, he may get a score once in a while, like every now and then,
outside
so on,
Sena is
right?
sorry,
and
Sena is
and
But
fine.
and
Said
And
Asia.
he will also have some good shots to show, but I think he doesn't
Yeah,
have the
he's
temperament.
he's beautiful,
He has the
right?
skills. He has the
He's
skills.
absolutely beautiful. One of the most
Yeah,
good-looking batsmen in the world right now, right? I mean, just really like a sight of beauty to watch him for sure, right? But the guy is
yeah.
a moron. I mean, he plays like ridiculous shots, right? Absolutely doesn't have the temperament to play Test cricket for sure. At least now. I mean, if he works on his game and so on, I mean, it's a different thing altogether, right? But otherwise, no.
All right, I'll go on for my favorite moment. For me, it's an easy pick, considering whose jersey I'm wearing, who I've been repping for many years now, long before captaincy. So it's from the MCG test when Australia second innings looked pretty much out of control in typical Australian middle order collapse fashion. And then you have Alex Carey and Pat Cummins doing a rebuild job. And eventually they end up with 234. Doesn't look like much of a score, but Pat Cummins with his 49, for me, that was the difference maker. Gave enough for Australia to actually, bowl it and get India all out before that dramatic last session after tea. That sums up this Australian side. Pat Cummins, his resilience, the resolve. You can call every adjective in the book and he would be deserving of it, right? Every time you have counted this team out, including this time after the thrashing at Perth, this team has come back. And we have all had complaints, including me, about how this is a boys' club and whatnot. But somewhere they dig in deep, and like Michael Clark says, dig in and get through to tea. That kind of sums up how this cricketing side under Cummins' leadership actually operates, and
Yeah.
he has
I just
done
want
lot
to.
more times than we can count at this point. Just
Yeah,
grateful
I
to
just want to
as a
add
captain.
one moment there. One moment, just interjecting there, Chris. Apart from the amazing Pat Cummins contribution that you called out, I think one thing that changed the whole dynamic of the series was the partnership between Nathan Lyon and Scott Boland in terms of batting in the last Test match. I think that totally frustrated the heck out of the Indian bowlers, including Bumrah, and probably that actually sent a message, a strong statement across. I mean, they really got tired of playing in Australia. It seemed like that, and that actually had ripple effects coming into this Test match as well. That
Yeah,
partnership, where
that's
they
a very good.
batted out almost like 200 balls, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so that must have been like really frustrating for the Indian bowlers. Like,
That was
despite
our revenge for the 2021 Border Gavaskar with your Pujara taking on all the blows to his
yeah,
chest and whatnot. Amazing, amazing. I think all of us had very good picks. All right, where do we go from here? So India goes to England and Australia goes to Sri Lanka, and I still don't understand
England
how.
is a home series, right?
Oh, could be. I couldn't care less about India. So, with all due respect, In- India plays England. Sorry, and thanks for the correction, Roshan. And Australia goes to Sri Lanka for a important two-match series. India is out of the WDC finals, I believe, after this loss. And Australia, I don't know, Dalfi, have they qualified? They have like
they are
one
they
more.
are they are through. They are through. This just confirms it. So if they had lost it, they would have needed to win
All
one
right.
or two,
So
both in Sri
even
Lanka.
2-0 loss to Sri Lanka, they're still
It
coming
wouldn't
to
ham. Yeah, it wouldn't hamper the chances.
pass.
They are already through. Yeah,
All right. I read somewhere that there is still this your overrate penalty docking points for that. That looks like the only question mark,
yeah,
which by the way is weird. Just go find your captains or find your players. Docking points in the table
yeah.
for slow overrate is just as ridiculous as
Especially in
boundary
a
line.
game where you have rain for 45 minutes and then 15 minutes later you go for tea. I mean,
Mm.
yeah.
Right. Roshan, what are you looking forward to? And retirements of senior players is already taken by Roshan Kariappa in the fourth minute of the podcast.
So, See, I don't care how good a team you are, you can't play with two batsmen short, right? That's just the reality for you. I hope Kohli and Rohit are rested, like within quotes, right? And they do some amount of soul searching, right? And and fix their game, man. I mean, it just at the level of Kohli, and I really thought at one point of time, maybe 3 or 4 years back, that Kohli was going to surpass Tendulkar. The way he was going, plus his fitness, and plus the amount of cricket we play these days, and so on and so forth. I really did. But now, I mean, it's just ridiculous for us, for a player of his stature to be so predictable is means that, I mean, he needs to work on his game. I mean, not that he's not, right? He's probably doing that more than anyone else. But I think there's a fundamental flaw. I mean, he'll probably have to you know talk to uh, talk to some senior folks and like get that sorted, I feel. But he can do that while in his own time, right? I don't want India losing matches while he learns how to play the offside ball, right? I mean, that's what has been happening right now. So him
Yeah,
for sure. Rohit Sharma, I think, is done for. I think he's gone, right? I mean, because see that lazy elegance, right? I mean, you look at the bat coming down to the ball. I mean, it's always late. It's always late, right? And that happens. You know, your lazy elegance doesn't work for you when you're 36, 37, right? I mean,
yeah.
so
Then you're
I
just
think we'll
labeled
have to.
lazy. Yeah,
So no, you'll probably have to change the game, right? See, one of the most tragic things that I saw, last couple of months back or something, Tendulkar playing some exhibition match and getting bowled while trying to play the straight drive. It was heartbreaking, right? It happens to the best of us, right? Okay, I mean, it happens to legends like Sachin. It can happen to a decent batsman like Rohit, right? So for sure, I think I would definitely see him out of the side. Uh, Bumrah, I mean, definitely needs some help, but hopefully he'll have some help with, I don't know, either Kuldeep or someone, right? Someone like a third or fourth bowler coming in India, right? And I think we're going to miss an Ashwin. We're going to definitely miss an Ashwin, right? Um, and
Yeah, by the way, quick shout out to our Ashwin celebratory episode. I thought we had an amazing chat there as well, um,
yeah,
to mark his retirement from the game. So people should go check that out on our YouTube channel.
yeah. And I do hope that, Pujara gets a recall, man. I mean, like, I don't understand why he was dropped, right? He's
how
averaging
old is
about
he?
45 or he's 35, 36. But
Oh,
see, I
Okay.
think there's a difference in technique, Uh, he if you look at his last 10 or perhaps 20 innings, he's averaging about 45 or 46, right? He got maybe like 5 or 6 half centuries. He got a century, and you wonder why the guy was dropped in the first place, right? I mean, like Harsha says, right? You need a circuit breaker in the middle, right? Someone who's going to stay the crease for a while. None of these guys inspire any amount of trust, if you ask me, right? So yeah, up the order, I would retain Jaiswal, I would retain KL as well, because KL, I think, a couple of times he had a rough hand, but otherwise, I mean, um,
yeah, I
he
think
he
he
he did
perfectly
show
fits that
intent.
lazy elegance label that Rohit Sharma exemplified all these years.
Who
Hey, I
KL?
meant it as a compliment.
No, I think KL is good. KL has the intent for sure, right? I mean, and if you look at the manner in which he got out, also, I think couple of deliveries, I don't think anyone could have played it, right? I mean, it was just like
Well,
this,
KL
you
stays.
know,
Yeah, in my book, actually,
what
he had a
what
good
the
series, to be honest, regardless of the
what
scores.
the hell kind of balls, right? I mean, so KL and Jaiswal for sure. I would definitely drop Gill. I think Gill, not for Test cricket, maybe ODIs and T20s. Even make him the captain if you want, right? I mean, who cares? Um, so 3, 4, and 5 is really tricky in my opinion. So I don't know. I mean, do we retain a Nitish Reddy, right? Because Nitish Reddy, I don't think we need that good a batsman at 8, if you ask me, right? We don't need someone at number 8. We need a bowler, and you can't pick your bowlers based on how good they bat, which is what has been happening right now. I mean, I can't give you like a definitive 11, but I can tell you what problems we're dealing with. The problems we're dealing with is that obviously you need at least three batsmen in the top order, like top to middle order, who can stay at the crease. You need a second, third, fourth bowler, right, for Bumrah, and hoping Bumrah plays and is not like,
The way
is not
Roshan is
does not have to
listing this
contend
out,
with
you would think that he's
anything
talking about a
serious.
football team which needs
And
reinforcements. Oh yeah, the January window is here. Okay, let's buy these players in the
the only
summer
person
window.
I see who the only person I see who's like confirmed, in my opinion, is like Pant, right? I don't see a reason to ever drop the guy. Right, but rest of it, I mean, it's just all up in the air right now, but I do hope that this transition happens sooner than later, because we're going to lose. We're going to lose with Kohli and Rohit. We're going to lose another three or four series at this rate, right? Because it's clear. I mean, Kohli is perhaps going to get 100 every once in like 6 innings or 5 innings, right? And Sharma, forget about it. I mean, he's going to probably score 40 or 50, in 10 matches, right? And what are you going to do? You can't play with two batsmen short, man. I mean, the game is too competitive. Here you have, Australians batting up till bowl end, and you can't have two batsmen short. So I think that's a real problem.
Wow. So who do we send this therapy bill to?
So, I think I was just calmly listening like a therapist
I,
myself.
man is disillusioned, and this
No,
is
it's a
what a GM
transitionary phase.
does,
It's just a transitionary
does to
phase,
a
and I think it
mofo.
needs some decent leadership at this point of time, right? Someone's got to step up.
No,
Someone's got to
yeah,
step
no,
up
I think
and
Roshan,
steer the ship.
like you called out, picking bowlers who can bat, or sorry, batters who can bowl or bowlers who can bat. I think that's a very typical T20 and an IPL mindset. And I would probably attribute it to the coach who himself is a successful T20 coach. Like Gautam
Exactly.
Gambhir probably is bringing us, I mean, whether does it intentionally, it is probably subconscious. Does he, that he actually picks a side like this or trying to have a gameplay like this. It's probably meant for the shorter formats than
You
Test
shouldn't
cricket. We
have to
probably
rely
need,
on a number
yeah,
eight batsman to save you, right? That's not a reliable strategy. Okay.
yeah,
If you just play the averages out in terms of how much a number eight or number seven person is going to like average, like how much he or she is going to score every innings. I mean, you just do the math, it doesn't add up, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
but like
so
Gandalf
so
put it,
it's
so
kind of
that's
stupid.
Gambhir's T20 blueprint, right? We saw this with LST and we saw it with Andre Russell and KKR.
KKR,
He's
yeah.
used to doing this
No, but I
to
won't
win
pin it on
matches.
Gambhir also. I mean, this has been going on for a while, right? I mean, I don't, I mean, Gambhir might have like now brought it to more prominence or whatever. I'm serious. I mean, see, I don't like, I have no love lost for Gambhir, right? As I said earlier, also, I think it's easier to be underrated and underappreciated than, to be overexposed and then, you know, come up short, right? Obviously, which is what is happening in the case of Gambhir right now. But yeah, I think that mindset has to go, right?
Yeah,
We
I
should play
also
some
have
specialist
a, I
bowlers
mean, I
for
want
sure.
to take a minute or two to rant about Gautam Gambhir as well. I actually put out a lengthy Twitter thread, even though like I said, I couldn't care less how India doesn't as far as cricket is concerned, right? Australia all the way. But Gautam Gambhir's selection has puzzled me, as the head coach has puzzled me from day one. So he's your typical big fish, small pond coach, somebody like a Jose Mourinho in football, right? The guy has a massive ego and he thrives in chaos where he can pit people against each other. And this is a tried and tested strategy for underdogs. Hey, yeah, this is us against the world, and we need to stay together and take on the world. And unfortunately, India now, or I don't see India needing a coach like that ever, because India is never going to be an underdog in cricket for the next 20 years, if I can be a little optimistic about your fortunes. So Gambhir's qualities uh, they they will clash with the likes of Kohli or Rohit and a lot of other big egos in the dressing room who has won it all. We can't all we have seen this exact thing play out with
Yeah,
Justin Langer in Australia, and we were
exactly.
actually winning games. Even when we were winning, it did not work out for us because
Correct.
there can only be one alpha in the world of sporting egos, and where Gambhir steps in, he wants to be that guy. Unfortunately, that's never gonna happen in the Indian dressing room for him ever. That's why we replaced Langer with a coach who's very passive. And for superstar teams, the best coaches are ones who stay off the limelight. It's like you see this with Carlo Ancelotti with Real Madrid, or you see it with Andrew McDonald, who's Australia's coach. They let the team do the thing.
Yeah,
They are
yeah.
there for
Andrew
nine.
McDonald is probably like, we once had John Buchanan long back for Australia. I mean, many of them didn't even know who the Australian coach was, so it was that
Yeah,
inconspicuous.
this
Yeah,
whole coach taking over the team and headlines, that's very Pakistan crickety, right? And you don't
exactly.
want India to take that route. That's like the worst way to deal with man management for a dressing room as mighty as India. That's just 2 cents from an Australian fan. I wouldn't have given away this trade secret any sooner, but now that we have the series wrapped up on WTC slot, free advice: take it or leave it.
No, but look, I mean, what are the expectations from a coach at this point of time, right? At this level of cricket, you're not going to teach someone how to hold a bat or, how do you bowl a yorker or a bouncer or something like that, right? That's not the expectation from a coach. The expectation from a coach is a couple of things. One is strategy, second is perhaps leadership, right? That's about it. Okay. Now, people have different intrinsics in terms of how they approach that, and maybe a Gary Curson is the type who will like not be very bombastic about it. Maybe Gambhir is the type who is, out there a bit showy and, whatever. I'm not a fan of some of the things he said. Right, like play for the team, all of that is nonsense. I don't think he should have said anything like that, right? But he's also the guy who can inspire a team, right? I mean, who can inspire a team for sure, right? I mean, he'll be a hard ass, but he'll be one of those like hard ass bosses who will get the best out of you, perhaps, right? So, as of last, last few series, he is accumulating the worst track record ever, I think. But still, you know, um, I don't know. I mean, it's
Will he
also
keep
like a
his
shit
job?
time for him because it's a transitionary
That's a good
time. I
question.
don't
Two
think, I
series
don't know
losses in a row.
actually.
When was the last time that happened to India? Do we
Yeah.
know?
So
We
Yeah,
speak so much, and especially Roshan, who's doing a lot of lawyering up for Gambhir. We don't know if he's actually gonna wake up tomorrow and still be India coach. With all due
he may
respect.
not. Who knows, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, he may not.
At least a couple of heads will roll after this. We do not know.
Yeah. Again, uh, I don't know, man. I'm not complaining. I'm just happy, and India is one of the, if not, if the toughest opposition for us to face, and this unraveling, you made it a lot easier for us. That's all I can say. Anyway, really good chat, gentlemen. Thank you, Roshan, for putting a brave face and actually showing up to this despite the result. I thought we had a really fun discussion. What is this Pep Guardiola behavior, Dolphy? I'm just going on saying how nice it was of Roshan to actually show up here. You are taunting him. Clearly, we did not rehearse the conclusion. Anyway, thank you so much for people watching. Go check out Sports Entertainment Weekly. We are on YouTube. We have done a bunch of episodes. We also do a lot of streams on football as well. That's something that you're interested in. Thank you so much. Take care. Good night.